Knowing your enemy is the first step in defeating your enemy, and in this case, our enemy is learning art. So let's talk about why art is so hard and what we can do to make it easier. Hey, Walter here, doing what I can to make comics easier because it shouldn't be overwhelming or daunting to tell your story. I make comics about making videos. I make videos about making comics, so if that's something you're into, make sure you hit that subscribe button. All right, so as artists, we know that learning art is hard, but why? Why is it so hard? I think there are 4 reasons why it's hard. 1, there is no finish line. 2, the better you get, the harder it is to get better. 3, self-doubt. And number 4, just life in general. Do you have some other reasons why you think art is so hard? Let us know in the comments, but let's talk about these 4 first. First on my list is there is no finish line. No one ever conquers art. What that means is that you are always in a state of learning. You're always going to be reminded that there is more to learn. This can become really exhausting. Granted, eventually you're going to get to a point where your skill reaches a sufficient level where you can produce consistent art without struggling with the main aspects of drawing, but there's always going to be a struggle. Even with artists that you admire, they're going to struggle with every piece they draw. And even if they aren't struggling with anatomy, they're going to be struggling with hands. If not hands, then gesture. If not gesture, then composition. Or they just learned something new about anatomy and now they're struggling with anatomy again. If you think that there is a finish line with art, you're going to become really frustrated and want to quit. So remember, there is no finish line. It's not a race. Yes, we all want to get good as fast as possible, but we can't get good any quicker than we will. Try to wrap your head around that sentence. So just get comfortable. It's a long ride, and that is okay. Not only is there no finish line, but the better you get, the harder it is to get better. In those first few years, you're going to be improving really quickly as you're learning all the basics, grasping the new concepts, and how to apply them. However, once you get to a certain level of skill, it's going to start feeling like you're not getting any better. Like in those first 3 years, your understanding of anatomy is going to go from 0 to 70. But now to get to 75, you're going to have to spend an entire year just to get those 5 extra points. Just imagine going from 75 to 80. It just gets harder and harder to improve. Not only that, you may also think that you're probably getting worse and not getting any better. But this is just because you've learned enough to start seeing more of your flaws. And this isn't a bad thing. It's actually a good thing because it's going to help guide your path to improvement. Tied to this is also the subtle or invisible improvements. When you learn how to draw a hand better, you can look at that hand and be like, yeah, I drew that better. But there are other aspects to art that can greatly improve an illustration that aren't immediately apparent. This is stuff like gesture, movement, composition, and speed. If you were to compare 2 of your illustrations, one a year older than the other, you may say the new one doesn't really look any better than the old one. But if you were to really study it, you may see that the figures pose a little bit more naturally. The expressions are more exuberant. The composition creates better movement. Maybe you'll realize also that you drew it in half the time and also had way more background elements or had more complex costuming. If you don't allow yourself to realize how you've improved and only see your weaknesses, you're going to get frustrated and quit. This leads to self-doubt. I've only met a couple of artists with no self-doubt. They are definitely the rarity. Most of us are constantly doubting ourselves, our skill, and whether we should just give up and go on with our lives. This is really tough on the soul, and it doesn't ever really go away. People at the top of their game still feel this way. If you see an illustration that you think is perfect, that artist will probably give you a ton of things that they know are wrong with it. So once you accept this as a fact, you can start making it work for you versus against you. Self-doubt is great for making you constantly analyze your work and try to improve your work. Those who think they know everything will cease to learn anything. So instead of seeing this as a curse of self-doubt, think of it as a blessing. And last up is likes. I meant life. But why not take this moment to like this video if you're enjoying it? So life encompasses a lot. These are the things outside of your control that actively and also passively work to keep you from doing art. I already mentioned that art takes a lot of time. Unfortunately, life doesn't really give us that much time. School, work, family, friends, hobbies, they all get in the way. Sleep is kind of important. But knowing that art takes time, you have to do some math to figure out where art lands on the ladder of importance. Is it more important than video games or friends? Just start adjusting and making sure that you're giving the appropriate amount of time to art. Get on some kind of schedule. Also, the world isn't the most supportive of art. Art is often looked at in a negative light and is really only meant for those people who come out of the womb as the second coming of Leonardo da Vinci. And that's because most people aren't artists. They don't realize that every single artist has spent countless hours, years of their life sacrificing all of the above to get better at art. They see you at the start of your art journey drawing ugly stick figures and make the assumption that that is as good as you're ever going to be, and that is just incorrect. Don't allow their short-sighted mindset to infect your long journey. And remember, as much as the world tends to look down on art as a career choice, art is everywhere. The world would not exist without art. It's not just a comic book or the cover art of the new Blizzard game. It's the play button on the YouTube channel. It's the logo for your favorite restaurant. It's the airplane pre-flight instruction brochure. It's the behind the scenes of movies and video games. It's not an easy path, but there is a path and the room is there for more artists. And I also think there is room for more comics. And if you want to keep making those comics easier, be sure to like, link, love, hug, and hit that sub button for more sweet, sweet goodness. Peace.